Hello there, and welcome to Stereo 3D Productions and this Quest 3 review video. I finally entered the third generation of virtual reality roughly 4 months ago with the Quest 3, and I immediately put the device through a series of trials, playing as many PC VR games as I could in the shortest amount of time possible in order to tell if I would like the device or not as my primary VR headset. 4 months is plenty. I think it's time to make a determination on that now. So in today's video, first we're going to take a brief recap through my personal history with VR. The reason being is some of those elements are going to become very relevant later on in the video. Next, we're going to take a look at the Quest 3 itself. First, the hardware. What does it look like? What is it equipped with? Next, we're going to take a look at the software, what that can do, maybe a bit of standalone functionality. And next, we're going to get into the meat of this video, PC VR gaming. That's right, I'm actually going to be going at this from the standpoint of a PC VR gamer primarily. Yes, I'm taking a look at the other stuff on the side, but the main focus remains PC VR. So we're going to play a whole bunch of PC VR games and see how that device fares in that environment. Finally, at the end, I'm going to give you my summary and I'll let you know if I recommend the Quest 3 or not. Now, I don't mean to spoil that last segment, but I will say something ahead of time. I have thoroughly enjoyed every single gameplay session that went into the making of this video. Honestly, it's not the fact that I was just reloading old games that have to me become VR classics by now, but in addition to that, I had not seen a substantial hardware upgrade in over 2 years, maybe 3. This was an awesome experience. So sit down, relax, grab some snacks, make yourselves comfortable, and meanwhile, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry for TMI, it's kind of a homeowner thing. I'm a little bit excited right now because I'm gonna get to try the new toilet I just had installed for the first time. So I'm gonna, and this might be good timing because that ostrich egg tartare I had is really not sitting well with me. So enjoy the video, I'll see you later. So I've been around VR since the beginning. At least I should say its new beginning. Once upon a time when I was a lot younger, I was trying out a Virtuality 1000 CS that was running Dactyl Nightmare at a home computing convention. Yes, the graphics and displays were shit and the unit was likely well worth over 10k, but it was stereoscopic and a cute gimmick for a convention. But since Oculus broke ground with VR back in late 2013, I have been around walking step in step with the tech. I've gone from the days of seated VR, VR without motion controllers, simply walking around in games using my mouse and keyboard, which did take some getting used to, especially considering the first Oculus dev kit's displays had so much persistence, it just felt terrible playing for long periods of time. A little after the Oculus DK2 dropped, I was turned into a regular VR user. From early VR games like Half-Life 2, Alien Isolation, simulations like iRacing and Flight Simulator X, all the way to a full library of various full-length games. When consumer VR made its debut, I was already prepared for everything that was to come thanks to my trustworthy Oculus Dev Kit 2. The introduction of motion controls were a bit of a bumpy road for me. While the tech progressively did grow on me, I tended to take issue with games that overly relied on artificial physical interaction. Whether it's because the game made me reach out of my space too much or required me to lean all the way to the floor to grab something, or even worse, just being outright annoying with the interactions. While I like the ability to point my gun with my hand and aim realistically in a VR game, I still prefer reloading my gun with a button. I still prefer jumping with a button. I don't even mind having to open doors with a damn button. It's just plain more convenient to me, and you can stay focused on what you're playing instead of having to stop and fidget with quasi-working mechanics. This take hasn't changed much to this day. I like action, adventure, horror, but for God's sake, don't get carried away making me do so many damn gestures. Half-Life Alyx's gun reload is as far as I want it to go. Through the years, I've used quite a few headsets, notably the Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive, the Valve Index. The Quests 1 and 2 have all at some point in time served as my primary VR headset. Along the way, I've also given the Vive Pro, the Vive Cosmos, the PlayStation VR 1, the Pimax 8K, the Rift S, and the Quest Pro each a fair series of trials to see what they could do. Since 2019, I had been mostly writing with the Valve Index, with the Quests 1 and 2 taking turns at being the backup kit, with the Quest 2 eventually taking up more and more time thanks to the addition of AirLink. By 2023, I was starting to wonder, it's been 4 damn years, what's coming next? Will Valve make something new? Is Pico going to release something competitive that'll sway me? I mean, I saw the Quest Pro. I've had to use it a few times for work, and I have to say, if that was a sign of what was to come, I do not want Facebook's next headset, because holy fuck was the Quest Pro a piece of shit. Sure, the pass-through video quality was impressive and the hand tracking, but it stops there. The field of view is I have blinders on degrees. It doesn't ship with a light blocking interface. What the hell is this? And by the way, while I was shooting this, the controls disconnect every 15 fucking seconds, and it did not fail the second I hit record. I just wanted to take a look at the thing. The controllers appeared 1 foot to the right of where they were supposed to be, and then the left one immediately disconnected as I stared at it. You actually have to reset them each time this happens, and this takes longer than the time they remain functioning correctly for. After all that shit, why the fuck would I buy their next headset? The Pro made it look like they gave up. But then they showed the Quest 3, the specs, the build, and I could tell, fuck, I'm going to have to buy Facebook's new kit, am I? Because it's actually going to be good, is it? Yeah, I know a thing or two about VR headsets, and while you can't tell everything from pictures, specs, and videos, I knew enough to tell the third Quest was going to be a potent little machine. I had no choice but to order mine. Valve hasn't said a damn thing all year, Pico's done with VR, the other projects don't impress me one bit. Time to order me a damn Quest 3. So before we throw this thing on our heads and look at what it can do, let's first take a look at what it's made of. I mentioned the Quest Pro earlier. Worry not, this design is definitely iterated from the Quest 2 profile and has almost nothing in common with the Pro, other than the low-profile displays, which made the unit a lot less deep. Keep in mind, my kit doesn't have the original fabric head strap on it. I quickly swapped that for an aftermarket one, and I'll go on about that in detail later on. A look into the viewport and we can see a solid plastic surface around what appears to be clear asymmetric lenses. Yes, that's right, the days of Fisher-Price quality Fresnel lenses are over. We finally have clear pancake lenses, and in this case, they had the balls to go full asymmetric. Oh, and what's this? That solid plastic surface isn't solid, nor is it plastic. It's a rubber membrane that allows the lenses to move further apart or closer together when you turn the IPD wheel under the headset. Yeah, I love this new design. Not only did it take me a while to notice it was flexible rubber, but this is so much better than the old Rift or Quest 1 design with the fucking fabric around the lenses that kept fuzzing and making your nose tickle and itch and was hard as fuck to clean properly. This new concept is finally just right, and put aside maybe some concerns about the durability of this rubber membrane, I think it's a great design choice, comfortable and easy to clean. We have a light sensor in this viewport again, and honestly, I've grown to absolutely hate these. Pausing and unpausing VR frequently can cause issues, and this is something I run into a lot when using Unity, trying to test VR creations. I almost always put tape over the light sensors. I don't mind the added power drain, I just remain mindful of that and pause the unit myself using the power button instead. The facial interface is still in the style of the Quest 2. It's this big ass bracket that you have to yank off the headset. Not the most convenient, but I still appreciate being able to remove this thing since it's the part you usually want to clean the most frequently on a VR headset. Also, as a first for Oculus or Meta in a long-ass time, eye relief. That's right, the facial interface has a couple of adjustment sliders with lock pins that you can adjust so someone who wears glasses can use the headset without having their glasses stab them in the eyes. Good job. The mechanism is a little jank, but once it's locked in place, it's pretty steady, and yeah, it's nice to see one of these kits finally have some kind of eye relief adjustment. Oh, and by the way, they even sell these so you can have more than one if you want a VR face interface laundry rotation like I used to have with my Index. Just the price is kind of silly. I haven't ordered extras yet myself, but I may just get one in the near future. It's always nice to have at least 2 face foams for your primary VR kit. While I zoom in on the display here to try and give you an idea, this thing packs two 2064 by 2208 pixel LCD displays that are set up in a strange inward rotated configuration. So in addition to the resolution upgrade, this configuration seems to further help with both pixel density and field of view. You can even see in this simple video how well the displays work when combined with these very clear lenses. This thing is actually capable of running at 72, 90, 120, and 144 Hz, depending on what you're doing. So not only are we getting a visual upgrade, but that is one versatile set of refresh rates. Now, as I said here, this Quest 3 already has an aftermarket head strap, and no, it's not the official one because I've heard way too many reports of the official strap being really reliable at breaking. It's consistent. It's called the Elite Strap, and the community calls it the Elite Snap. I get it, message received. Mine's a knockoff from Amazon. Link in the description if you're interested. No, it's not sponsored. Look, I started off using the fabric head strap, and while it's a lot more comfortable than the Quest 2's, it's just not comfortable. Yeah, it'll do the job for a while, but if you want long-ass sessions, you're going to want something better. Anything, really. In my case, this thing was only $25, so it was just beyond worth it. The headset is super comfortable to wear now. I always said the Valve Index was like the Cadillac of VR, and the Quest 3 rivals that comfort now with this strap attached to it. What's made it a lot more comfortable even is this battery you see attached to the back of the head strap. This is a power bank I bought when I started doing a lot of wireless sessions with the Quest 2. I simply attached this baby to the back of the Quest 3 strap when I got the kit, and not only does it extend wireless sessions well beyond 3 hours, but it also balances out the headset's weight so well that I can pretty much play without even tightening the head strap. Having this degree of good balance is quite a treat, and I have honestly not forgotten about a headset on my head as often as I have with this new setup here. Now let's pan over to the front of this little headset. Over here we have 3 tiny compartments. I think Meta call these pills. And apparently you need to take 3 pills to get good VR. First we have the outside pair, which each contain 2 cameras. The upper camera is for movement tracking, a black and white camera likely able to see infrared, and the lower camera is for the color video pass-through. In the center pill, you have the depth sensor, which helps map out the space around you, helps with hand tracking and a few other features pertaining to AR. Under the headset, you have 2 more tracking cameras in the outer corners, and finally an IPD slider and a volume adjustment button. Finally, on the sides, you have a headphone jack on the right and a USB-C port on the left, which is right next to the unit's power button. The controllers are nothing new in terms of layout, but notice how there's something missing in this generation. Yeah, the hoop is gone. This isn't a complete surprise since the Quest Pro controllers already pulled that trick, but those have their own tracking cameras. The Quest 3 controllers, on the other hand, don't have a hoop, but also don't have cameras. Look, I don't know what happened with Quest Pro, because the controllers for that kit are borderline usable. The worst reliability I have ever seen since the inception of VR, so you'd think Quest 3's controllers might be even worse. No, they work really well. I don't know how, but they actually are as reliable as any Oculus controller I've enjoyed in the past. They also have a good weight and feel to them, maybe a little less flimsy than Quest 2, kind of a callback to the original Oculus Touch. Your U-turd toilet needs to be paired with a U-turd flusher application in order to vacate any feces. Please download the U-turd flusher app on Turtle Play. Okay, so that's annoying. Download? Fuck, why is this so slow? Before I get into the VR setup itself and take a look at the built-in capabilities, I need to start by complaining for a minute. This account login bullshit is getting old. How many of you have bought devices that needlessly require an app and login in order to operate? Okay, finally the app is installed, so how do I pair? Create a U-turd toilets account or log into an existing one to continue. Wait, what the fuck? I need an account to flush my goddamn toilet? Yeah, what the fuck is going on? Subsidizing products only to in turn force us to turn over a bunch of personal information and tie our asses to a bunch of tracking algorithms, all disguised under the pretext of, quote, security, unquote. Not only did the Quest 3 follow that trend, but there were two shocking surprises along the way, surprises that I loved as much as I love hemorrhoids. First, why in the hell do we still require a smartphone app in order to activate this damn thing? Literally, the only action I've ever taken with this goddamn app is to enable developer mode to sideload apps, and that's a feature that could easily be built in right into the device. I don't get it. I thought they had done away with that shit last generation, but I guess I was wrong. Next unwanted little pustule of a surprise was the login itself. Since I've been using Oculus kits for a while now, I've gone through the 2 rebrands in under 3 years, and this has led to an issue I've come to call the Mecubucus problem. See, every time these guys randomly rebranded the company, they redid the account login structure. First going from the plain Oculus accounts down to outright forcing a Facebook login, and finally creating a whole new account system called meta accounts. Well, the ID I intended to use with this kit was hard to get pinned down. I don't have any screen recordings of this absolute mess of a process, and I don't feel particularly inclined to relive this traumatic experience, but I ended up in a situation where the meta login would redirect me to the Oculus login, which would in turn redirect me to a Facebook login. I had to waste an hour figuring out how to either merge or close the other variants of the accounts using this ID, just so I could narrow it down to just the meta account, where I was finally able to log in to both the app and my headset. This entire fiasco was needlessly complicated and one hell of a setback for something that should otherwise be at least moderately exciting. Okay, so I'm logged in, the toilet's been picked up over Bluetooth, I should be finally ready, and flush. What? Suspicious activity has been detected on your account. In order to flush, please enter the 4-digit code to... What the fuck? I need 2FA to flush my sh... Getting upgraded VR hardware is always an event, and it really sucks that this is what you're first greeted with. It's a layer of bullshit that we don't need to deal with. If you're going to require a pointless login just so we can use the damn device we purchased, yes, this is already a big problem in itself, then at least don't make the experience fucking harrowing. Even more so for returning users with older accounts, and for the love of God, stop requiring an absolutely useless mobile app. The device has all the capabilities to complete a registration process on its own. From Bluetooth to Wi-Fi, there's really no fucking reason. It's a shame we have to go through this, but I will give a grain of sand's worth of credit. Once this was done, it was done. The device hasn't bothered me for anything else in terms of login or information since, and the only times the previous generation Quest headset did require a new login or pairing of some sort was during the idiotic 2 rebrands. So once you're set up, it should be smooth sailing for quite some time. Okay, you got your damn code now. Flush! Your toilet requires a firmware update. Oh, come on! I wanted to show a bit of this unit's standalone functionality in this video. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass to record these, and I did want this video to focus mainly on PC VR capabilities, but at the same time, I don't want to completely ignore what the headset can do on its own. It just wouldn't be fair, and you'd honestly be missing out on some of the cool tricks. So here's the deal. I did want to show you how the PlaySpace setup gets done, so it gives me an excuse to set up a standalone recording, which by the way is synchronization hell. Yes, standalone recordings are still a problem no matter how you approach them, so forgive the slight desyncs, and while I'm doing this, I'll throw in a few extras. For example, I won't be doing this PlaySpace setup with my controllers. I'll use my hands. This way you'll be able to see how incredibly reliable that input method has gotten. I wouldn't be playing shooters with this or games that feel more compelling having something in your hand while playing, but hand tracking should down the road form its own place if it's going to be this good. Right now, I'll create a room scale play space. I'll have to aim my hand, in this case the right hand, at what I want to interact with, and I can pinch to click. When I want to move a given window, I can grab it by the edges and move it in my space. I can also interact with the UI by directly pressing it, which is pretty cool. By default, the Quest 3 may actually offer you a boundary that it created automatically. Most of the time, this should actually do. However, in my case, I'm going to create a boundary that is intentionally too large for my space because there is something else I'll want you to see here. Side note, during all this, notice on my monitor how delayed the video capture is. I'm using a wired capture, and even with that, capturing with a pass-through on induces this massive desync. I mean it when I said it, these are synchronization hell. Now this is what I wanted to show you, and this has been around since the Quest 1, but damn is it ever so impressive when you first see it. Notice how the headset detects obstacles within your play space, even drawing little red dots around their geometry. Of course, compared to the Quests 1 and 2, the Quest 3 pulls this off with orders of magnitude more precision. Next thing I'm going to do is make that obstacle detection look like antiquated technology by showing you the spatial mapping. I fired up the free First Encounters demo. You can pick that up right on the Quest storefront, and before it let me play, it presented me with the prompt to perform a spatial scan. This is where the Quest 3's depth sensor comes into play. This here is the first time I ever saw the feature, so pardon my reaction as this thing figures out the geometry of my room to a much greater detail than anything I've ever seen before. Now, once that scan was complete, it offered me to adjust the walls, so I did it just for science. It did shift one of the walls later on, just like I had configured it. Finally, the process requested that I indicate pieces of furniture, at which point I drew in a window and the doorway as a door. And holy shit, will you look at that, this thing is a lot more precise than I expected, and the AR is incredible. God damn it, is it ever so impressive. For the walls I did not edit, I could very well see the game elements line up perfectly with my actual space. I would say the only weakness is your arms and hands don't occlude the virtual game elements. However, to my great surprise, the furniture actually did occlude some enemies. I first noticed my gunshots hitting the top of the white table, then I saw an enemy hide under that same table with occlusion. Really impressive stuff. I really regret the wall edit. It was too close and my hands kept bringing up the spatial guardian bounds. In retrospect, I shouldn't even have drawn in any furniture or adjusted any walls, as any inaccuracies you see here are a result from said adjustments. I'll definitely revisit this in the future with a non-edited scan, because holy crap was that ever so amazing. It's just a little wave shooter, but it's still a perfect glimpse of what kind of AR this unit can pull off. While this is all going on, I know this is just a video on YouTube, but if you're wondering about this pass-through video quality looking a lot better than most headsets you've seen, you would be correct in that assumption. This is one of the best video pass-throughs I have seen in my life, and I have by now tried the Apple Vision Pro, which is technically the #1 at the moment, but the Quest 3 still impresses the shit out of me every time I use it. It's a really massive step forward for me, and it's made using this kit a lot more convenient. I do appreciate the ability to see my surroundings as I'm setting up for a recording. I can do some pretty impressive things like start and stop my camcorder, see and use the buttons in my OBS window off my monitor, and make audio hardware adjustments all without taking the headset off once. Keep in mind, all this great looking pass-through is actually stereoscopic, which means you even retain your natural depth perception. The depth mapping itself isn't always perfect and can do some strange warping artifacts with fast movement, but the depth mapping is still impressive and in most situations normal enough to feel very natural. One of the weirdest cases I found with the stereoscopic mapping is when you look through a window. It's so strange, it's like the Quest sees the outside world as a kind of completely separate skybox, and while on the 3D version of this video you'll be able to really see what's going on, even in the 2D version you can tell it looks like it's moving the outdoors separately from the indoors. Strange, but it's the only edge case I found where the depth does something this weird, and I find the result kind of cool to see, you know, for scientific reasons. Now, to wrap up the setup and standalone segment in the most appropriate way possible, let me show you one of the headset's amazing features. A feature shared between all of the Quest headsets. You can play Doom 3. Check my video on the setup, link in the description, but yeah, this thing can run Doom 3 on itself. That is pretty cool. I highly recommend the game. It's actually fairly good to further develop VR legs that have already had a bit of training, plus it's a great testament to VR horror. It does require side quests to sideload that mod, and that setup can be a little annoying, but I will link you to the side quest download page where there are a bunch of tutorial videos on that very page. It's really worth the time because there's tons of excellent sideloaded content you might want to play down the line. Okay, the firmware update only took like 15 minutes, but I think I can finally flush now. Go! Again, what? There were too many flush attempts made to this toilet. Please try again later. Bro! I just want to flush my turd, you sack of... So we finally get to the main point of this review. My purpose for a VR headset is very specific. I'm going to game with it and I'll be using a PC. It's been like that since the inception of VR and it won't change in the foreseeable future. Yes, Standalone is cool, but it pales in comparison to what a PC can deliver in terms of content. There's just no contest here, and so, over the course of these 4 months, how did the Quest 3 fare as a PC VR headset? To answer this, I'll be going through 3 categories, 3 different types of games that each reveal different qualities of the VR headset. First, we'll jump into simulations. Notably, in this case, I used iRacing to test the Quest 3. Simulations involve anything that tries to imitate realistic vehicle operation, whether it be land, air, sea, or space, it doesn't matter. Simulations of the sort share similar traits. In the end, it's my belief that the better a VR headset delivers in this type of activity, the better you can assume the hardware is. Operating a vehicle is something we do naturally, and we depend on a whole lot of senses we take for granted. And when VR hardware manages to stimulate these senses in a realistic way with an image that is clear from edge to edge, it's a big indicator that you have a winner on your hands. Next, I'll jump into a category of games that is extremely common: action-adventure. If you bought a VR headset in the recent past, it's almost certain this is the type of activity you went for. This setting isn't as dependent on giving off natural cues as simulations are, but you will still want something that doesn't feel intrusive or forced. More importantly, in the case of these games, is you'll want hardware that works reliably for long periods of time without doing anything weird mid-play. Some of the games I'll use for this test include Half-Life Alyx, Portal 2, and Fallout 4 VR, all games that you can play more or less at your own pace, and games that will be more enjoyable when never interrupted by hardware or software shenanigans. All the VR kit has to do with these is not screw up, and you have yourself a good start. Finally, I'll cover one of my favorite things to do in VR, one of the things that in my opinion is the most elevated, augmented by virtual reality. Horror games. This category comes with a few necessities in regards to the hardware. Fresnel lenses have been a cancer on the VR industry since the commercial launch in 2016, and the Quest 3 finally breaks this disease streak. High contrast games that are generally dark with odd bright spots here and there, games that put you in dreadful environments, contrast and clarity needs to be excellent in the kit you're using for these to work their best. Most of the requirements for this category are similar to that of action-adventure, but there is a lot more importance going into visual clarity, or more importantly, optics and display brightness range. With those three fundamental categories, we should be able to make a clear determination. Does the Quest 3 make a good PC VR headset, and does it also make a good overall headset? Keep in mind that I tried to split my gameplay using both of Oculus's interfacing methods. I did some gameplay using the wired link solution, but I also ran quite a few games using the amazing, sometimes borderline magical wireless solution known as AirLink. Yes, I know, we also have Steam Link and Virtual Desktop, but those are probably a beast for another video. I will say briefly, however, I have tested Steam Link just so I could have a backup solution on hand should AirLink one day give me problems, but I haven't yet run into a situation where I was stuck enough to require either Steam Link or Virtual Desktop. In all cases, Link and AirLink have served their purpose without issue, and I haven't been pushed very much into looking at other solutions. For the wired sessions, I went with the OG Link solution, and I used a knockoff cable I bought on Amazon that has worked really well for years now. I was going to put a link in the description, but the one I got has since been discontinued. A quick search on Amazon should yield a good selection of sub $30 high-speed USB-C cables with descriptions that often directly mention Quest Link. It's worth a search before caving in and buying the branded cable, which runs for nearly 3 times the price as the knockoffs, all of which provide an equal result. The ability to play wired or wireless with each method's set of trade-offs has made the Quest line of headsets the most versatile on the market, and the Quest 3 has really kept up the standard. Side note, while I won't be covering Steam Link in this video, I must make a quick mention of the fact that Steam's method allows us to run the kit wirelessly at 72, 90, 120, or 144 Hz, something that AirLink does not offer. AirLink only offers 72 and 90. Yes, I will be experimenting with Steam Link later, it sounds very interesting. One last thing I needed to go over before we get into the meat of gaming is the audio. I did not notice the audio. This in itself could be a bad thing, but it's actually not. The fact that this headset didn't make me want to reach for my earbuds to get better audio is, now that I think of it, quite a surprise, because this kept happening with the Quest 2. I don't know if the audio system is completely different or if they just changed the layout of the speakers, but it seems to first leak a lot less than the Quest 2, yet the audio is quite good. Speaking of, the Index is a headset where I notice the audio in the best way possible. It has the best sound system of all VR headsets, and despite being well above decent, the Quest 3 does not completely measure up. What's important is I'm not going to be reaching for these damn earbuds anymore because the audio is in fact good enough and doesn't pack my microphone audio with game sounds, which the Quest 2 was really bad for. Okay, I think that's everything. It's time to go through these rounds of gameplay and see how the Quest 3 fared through all of it. Ah yes, vehicular simulations. One of the very first things I ever did regularly in VR. Driving cars in iRacing as of 2013, or later flying planes in Microsoft Flight Simulator X with the Fly Inside FSX plugin in 2015. This is probably one of the most important things for a headset to do right. A lot of these requirements are inherent though. For example, simulations demand good visual clarity, excellent field of view, not just a big field of view, but one that is projected clearly by the lenses without any distortion or aberration. For the Quest 3, I initially wanted to subject it to a test using F1 2023, but if you go check my channel for that video, you'll see how terribly it went. To no fault of the Quest 3 at all, it just turns out that Codemasters do not care, and EA are totally cool with illegal false advertising, I guess. So I had to abandon that approach and go back to one of the most trustworthy simulations I know for VR, iRacing. You just can't go wrong. If your headset can't do iRacing right, it won't do any simulation right at all. Hell, it might even indicate it's a terrible overall piece of hardware, as I had seen with the Pimax 8K, one of the worst simulation experiences I have ever had. For racing, by the way, I ran this session using the wired link solution. Racing is the kind of simulation that requires quick reflexes and thus the lowest possible latency, which is what you'll get over the wire. In addition to less latency, of course, given the wire can carry more bitrate reliably, you do also get a bump in visual quality over Airlink or other wireless solutions. Jumping into iRacing with the Quest 3, running at the beautiful Laguna Seca with the always fun to drive Dallara F3 cars, I could immediately tell that this was a huge step up compared to the Quest 2. The field of view feels like a good 20% more than the Quest 2, and while it doesn't beat the Valve Index, it manages to get extremely close to doing so. The heavily canted displays along with these lenses seem to be giving out more field of view than they even have in their specs. I can't put my finger on it, but the visibility in this kit felt natural. The surprise extra here is how excellent these lenses are. This may be the primary reason why I get the impression this headset has more field of view than it says on paper. The lenses unwarp the screen image in such a clean, clear way that it makes more of the visible image usable to your eyes. During many situations, without even noticing, I was reacting to cars in my blind spots, scenery on the sides of my car, and I was noticing absolutely every little detail in front of me, even with cars and objects that were really far away. Something funny, by the way, there's one spot on this track just after the corkscrew corner that always zips by the corner of my right eye because of the VR headset lenses. Been that way since the DK1. In the past, my heart would skip a beat at that moment because my brain would think there was a car in my blind spot while there wasn't. It's in turns 9 and 10, and I swear I've gone through this gameplay and older videos to find out what is the goddamn object that keeps causing this, and I don't know what it is. You'll have to take my word for it. I suspect it may be the big red corner anti-cuts, but I just can't put my finger on it. But more importantly, I don't get this reaction in the Quest 3 anymore. Go figure, this is the first headset in history where this does not happen to me once. Instead, I just have a clear view of the two corners where this kept happening. And so the distraction is gone. I reckon the lens clarity and their ability to unwarp the image as clearly as possible is a giant factor here, minimizing artifacts at the edges. I'm not kidding when I say this. This is the closest I've gotten to the feel of natural vision in a simulation, and it's a hell of a satisfying feel, and it's very comparable to the Valve Index, which I always touted as one of the best vehicular simulation kits out there. I myself will be giving Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 a shot later in the year, and I do expect the Quest 3's visuals to perform flawlessly for that purpose. However, I didn't even need to do that for this video. One good long look at iRacing and I know everything I need to know. What a damn good simulation kit this thing makes. When you think of VR, you might tend to think of vehicle simulations like we just looked at, but you might not immediately realize that the thing you'll be doing most in here is not driving or flying all sorts of vehicles. Odds are you'll just play the same kind of game you've always enjoyed on a screen, but in virtual reality with full stereoscopic depth perception, 6 degrees of freedom, and the ability to use your hands as naturally as possible in most cases. Now, if you watch my channel, you might know I do get annoyed when games try to get cute with physical interactions. In retrospect, I wasn't even that fond of the Valve Index controllers. Sure, the finger tracking was cool, but substituting a physical, reliable grip button for the finger tracking handle really caused me issues down the line, and I just wish the wheel wasn't reinvented here. I love me some buttons. They're reliable, they don't move, they don't change, they're concrete, not abstract. This is why I'm a big fan of the touch controllers, and this time around is no different. This category was a mixed bag when it came to how I chose to run it, wired or wireless. I chose to go for wireless in the majority of it, but I did use the wire for Fallout 4 VR to get a bump on the clarity with it, since that game has the shimmers to no end. And no, its built-in TAA has never really been of any help. In Fallout 4 VR, it's just been business as usual for me. This is a game that I launch, put on the headset, and just forget about VR. The simpler the controls get, the easier for me it is to escape and completely forget I am using any form of technology, and Fallout in the Quest 3 is one of the best matches to accomplish this that I have ever seen. In addition to control simplicity, that game is looking better than it ever has. I'm not sure if in this case it's the lenses themselves or just the display's color range, but what an absolute beauty this game is in the Quest 3. Speaking of beauty, I could not believe my eyes when I loaded into Half-Life Alyx. Yes, the Quest 3 has upgraded displays and better lenses, but I honestly think Valve managed to implement some kind of magic anti-aliasing in their game, because holy fuck, Alyx was one of the biggest visual improvements I have noticed in this headset, to the point where I had trouble just focusing on playing the game when I first loaded in. I don't know what to say, man. The game runs butter smooth with settings that are not overdone or aggressive in any way, yet it looks like I'm applying 6 times super sampling or something. What an absolute marvel to behold. The damn thing gave me razor sharp goosebumps when I loaded my save file. There was one little weird thing with this headset. It's almost as if the game doesn't expect this much vertical field of view, and so it seems one of the lighting effects is cropped at the bottom of the view. Might be something Valve could fix to make this game even more future-proof. It looked amazing, and I wasn't even using the wire, so I can actually get it looking slightly better than this. That's crazy. All in all, the Quest 3 elevated Half-Life Alyx by several orders of magnitude. And yes, we're going to see it again on the channel soon, because I'll want to please my eyes and senses again a few more times. Now, one surprise that I did not expect to one day be using in any VR headset review is Portal 2 VR. Shortly before the release of this headset, Portal 2 had a mod released for it that finally enables full VR. Now, a lot of players take a single look at Portal 2 and immediately conclude they would experience motion sickness, but I have stressed this at every turn of the corner, and I'll do it again. Portal 2 is not a vomit-inducing machine in VR, it's an amusement park. Everything the Quest 3 brought to the table here is its image clarity, upgraded resolution, and control simplicity. You wouldn't need a Quest 3 to fully enjoy Portal 2 in VR, but it does help a good deal. Moments where I was really glad it's the Quest 3 I was using and not some other kit were towards the beginning of the chapter The Escape, where you end up in 3 or 4 dark areas consecutively, all areas with low light and odd areas with high brightness. I had to stop myself on 2 occasions because I would wonder to myself, yo, this really looks good, but why does it look so damn good? Until I realized it's the lenses. Something that gets really proven with VR action adventure is the controllers, but more importantly, their tracking. See, Quest 3 is an inside-out kit, so you'd expect less reliability in this department, but oh no! Aside for some very fringe cases, I did not run into any controller issues. In fact, I caught the thing still tracking with my hands behind my back on several occasions, which is as impressive as inside-out controller tracking gets. Not to mention, my lighting varies a lot in this room with the colored lights set up, and that environment has not been more or less of a challenge for the Quest 3. Controller tracking has been smooth since day one. Hell, even the hand tracking works in low light. Bottom line is, the Quest 3 proved to be not just a great kit for action and adventure games, but it's likely the kit I have enjoyed the very most to date, thanks to all its unique qualities. Now, I was just talking about what a good job these pancake lenses were doing in low light situations while playing Portal 2, and considering horror games love to dim the lights or outright kill them to make you shit your pants, you can damn well expect these games to entirely rely on good lenses with minimal fuckery such as light scatter, aberration, or non-existent god rays. And this is where I'm simply not even going to ease into the topic. I have never, I mean never, in forever, ever enjoyed horror games this much in any VR headset in history. I think the closest I've come to enjoying me a good scary game in a VR headset was Alien Isolation with the Oculus DK2, which is, by the way, the last headset I've owned that used pancake lenses until I bought the Quest 3. Remind me again why the industry shifted over to using shit-tier Fisher-Price Fresnel lenses again? Because there is no reason. Okay, maybe there are reasons, but they're wrong. Listen to me, we wasted almost 8 years with these shitty Fresnel lenses, and while horror is the category you'll notice the most, do you have any idea how that shit tarnished visuals in absolutely everything we played, no matter what category, light level, or color palette? It's a damn shame, but I'm happy the dark ages of shitty lenses are done. This is so bittersweet for me. These are all games I've been playing for a very long time, besides Lethal Company, and I have never seen any of them look this good. And I'm not even talking about the obvious resolution increase. You have no idea how much these pancake lenses have elevated visuals to another degree. I'll never forget the moment where the power went out in that Resident Evil 7 Daughters DLC. I reach down to light the Zippo and stare at the flame. In the background I see pitch blackness, with my little puny flame in the foreground barely illuminating anything past 3 feet of my eyes. That session was truly revealing for me, as there just wasn't a single moment where the optics interfered with the visuals, despite those being extreme contrasts through and through. The other game I know by heart in terms of visual is Alien Isolation. There is no game level I know better than the survivor mode's The Basement, and honestly, this is the same song as in Resident Evil 7. Man, this game looks completely different through pancake lenses and gets damn near perfection visually speaking. Isolation, notably the basement map, is full of extreme contrasts, and with the Rift, the Vive, the Index, the Quests 1 and 2, you could not escape tons of scatter and god rays from the cheap lenses. But this, in the Quest 3, is almost completely absent. At the very most, I've noticed a rare glimmer of a glare, cause I like my strap a bit too loose. My gameplay through Isolation may have been mostly business as usual, notably because I know this game so well, but visually speaking, it felt like the hardware was finally doing this content some justice. Over half these perks came from the amazing lenses on the Quest 3 rather than being from the resolution upgrades. Then there's Lethal Company and Phasmophobia. I kind of throw these two games in the same basket mainly because while they have a completely different gameplay loop, the visual themes are really not that far apart. You've got your dark places with bright spots, flashlights, instruments that shoot off all sorts of colored lights, everything you'd expect in a typical horror game. With the Quest 3, I must have spent a good dozen hours in Phasmophobia and a little over half a dozen in Lethal Company, and never once did the lenses take me out of it, something that would happen periodically with previous generation headsets in Phasmophobia. Again, these sessions were mostly a mixed bag with Link and Airlink. I like to play Phasmophobia and Lethal Company wirelessly because those sessions will be longer, and standing around moving about with a wire attached to you for 3 hours can get annoying. I did use the wired solution for isolation to get a fidelity bump, as once again we're looking at a game with the shimmer syndrome. I cannot stress enough how much this kit completely changed the playing field when it comes to VR horror. This is the best experience I have had with virtual reality in a long time, and it's just incredibly satisfying to finally see the bar raised where it should have been the whole time. Resolution, optics, and clarity. Horror games have shown me how much pancake lenses are superior to anything else by a country mile. I will never buy a headset with Fresnel lenses again. It's been a really long time now. Please, let me flush. Fucking finally! I'll open this segment by just saying it outright. The Quest 3 has had me excited about VR in a way I have not been since I first tried the Oculus DK2 back in 2014. I just haven't been this stoked about any improvements since. Yes, there have been tons of excitement, but there also have been tons of inexplicably frustrating choices made in this industry since VR headsets have gone commercial. From obviously bad designs to inferior hardware of the likes of Fresnel lenses, literally made for Fisher-Price baby toys, to experimental inputs like the horrible, barely usable HTC Vive wands, there have been so many inexplicable annoyances along the way that it's been hard to keep a solid smile on my face all these years. We've been burned so many times. Not this time around, not at all. Not even from the company that initially screwed up their consumer VR launch by producing one of the most poorly designed headsets, bearing some of the worst lenses on the market, with the most half-hearted upgrades you could ever imagine. Yeah, I'm talking about the historically disappointing Oculus Rift. The kit that had me wiping my lenses for 2 hours non-stop, thinking I was getting fog, only to finally realize Oculus had gone out of their way to use the single worst optics known to humanity. The kit had me wondering why the stock face foam felt like concrete coated in sandpaper. The Quest 3 is a complete reversal from everything I hated about the transition from development kits to commercial VR, and I am ready to confidently say it is my favorite VR headset of all time. I love the design, I love the features, I love the controllers, I love the optics, and honestly, I think its only downside is the passable head strap it ships with, something that can be rectified with a simple $25 purchase. This unit has got me looking forward to doing way more VR than I have over these past 4 years, and I don't think I'll be slowing down anytime soon. I've been waiting for something that is nearly as perfect as this, and now that I have it, I will consume it until it's time for the next big thing. Not to mention the fact that I've come to take wireless VR for granted is awesome. I do credit the Quest 2 for doing that introduction, but it's so amazing to have this continued perfectly in the Quest 3. The field of view is vastly superior to previous Quest units. The lenses are the best I have ever seen on the consumer VR market, bar none. The displays are great. We finally truly cannot see pixels anymore even when we try, and believe me, I tried hard. The form factor has reached a point where we're headed towards wearing a visor rather than an entire headset. It's extremely comfortable with a cheap aftermarket head strap, even more so with the battery for balance. This comfort level is actually comparable to the Index, which I refer to as the Cadillac comfort of VR. The controllers feel nice, not quite as nice as the first Touch kit, but they are closer to OG Touch than the Quest 2's controllers. The tracking is extremely reliable to the point where I haven't really seen this machine do a single strange thing in nearly 100 hours of gameplay. The wireless and wired solution make this thing incredibly versatile. You need yourself your low latency, high density VR for something reflex based like racing, or to keep the visuals in your favorite game as clear as possible. Business as usual. You want the freedom of moving about without wires, with a performance and latency that will, in the majority of cases, look and feel just like wired VR? Business as usual. I feel like at this point the Quest 3 has standardized magic, and it's done it well. I've even had a chance to briefly use an Apple Vision Pro, and it's staggering how many features the Quest 3 shares with it, but even more surprising to see so many easy, obvious wins for the Quest over the AVP. The Quest Pro may have left me with PTSD for how terrible it was and what kind of future it painted for Meta and VR, but what it ended up doing is, in the end, it made the Quest 3 all that much more of a surprise. This little headset is a masterpiece, and I'm going to use it as long as possible, now being my main third generation VR kit. For those of you who are waiting for the next big thing for VR, this is it right now. I would most definitely recommend this headset and suggest using it for everything it can do, standalone and PC VR. If you're someone who's thinking of going primarily the PC VR route, you can spare on costs and get the one with the least capacity. This is an MO I've been using myself since the first Quest generation. At an entry price of $500 US, it's practically half the price of a high-end headset of the likes of the Index or the Big Screen Beyond. It packs a massive optics upgrade, competes in resolution and refresh rates. It's almost impossible to deny this entry being one of the most accessible entry-level VR kits, but with a very light emphasis on entry-level, since this is by no means just a toy. It's a VR kit capable of delivering even on the very cutting edge. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this Quest 3 review, and if you've got any comments, objections, strong disagreements, please go right ahead and comment below. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think of the kit, especially if you actually own one. Don't forget, I also have a second channel, Stereo 3D Plays, on which I run series of Let's Plays, one-off gameplay videos, and B-roll content, where I just record my initial analysis of various games and apps, most of the time with the ultimate objective of producing content for this channel as a result. Go ahead and come hang out over there. I'll post a link in the description. I try all sorts of things on there, and you might spot something you're interested in. So in addition to letting me know what you think here, we can all hang out and exchange ideas on the secondary channel on the long run. As for Stereo 3D Productions, with what I think of the Quest 3 now out in the open, it'll be time for me to enjoy this device for what it is for a good long stretch, and I'll have a few new games and mods to showcase on this channel. We've gone through Resident Evil 7, Half-Life 2, Resident Evil 2, Doom 3, Lethal Company, and Portal 2 so far, but we're not done. There's some old gems I need to bring back out on stage, and some new ones that have just fallen out of nowhere. Be on the lookout. Until then, everyone, thanks for watching, and I shall see you next time. What now? Your free flush has been consumed. Consider getting a U-Turd Prolapse membership, or buy more individual flushes on the U-Turd Toilet storefront. You can even save your credit card info. Alright, I'm returning this fucking toilet. I'd rather shit in a hole in the floor.